first deep penetration raid. That's a month from now. Okay, we're going to talk about B-17s and their activity over Europe in 1943, before the Mustang fighters got there. We had P-47, but they couldn't go but part of the way. So on this raid, we didn't see them at all because we went over the North Sea up to Keel and beyond Denmark, northern Germany, on this raid today. On this raid, I was in this position, which is known as Tail End Charlie. I think they named that for me. For a fighter attacking the formation on the rear, that's the target of choice. His closest one, and be less defensive firepower to bring on him. And incidentally, on my first 6 raids, I was in that position 4 times. So I went to the operation officer, told him I had served my tour, I want to move forward. And he did. I never had to be a tail end Charlie again.
What was your position on the plane? What were you doing?
I was a pilot.
Oh, okay, yeah. Go ahead.
Now on this raid today, I'm in this position, so I'm flying on this plane. I'm guiding on him. So I had to sit in the co-pilot seat, which on the right side. Usually the pilot sits on the left side. So I'm on this side. And while I got this plane here, the battle damage we got later was one of the blades on this prop, the obvious damage, a big hole right here where a 20mm hit, and numerous other hits, and I'll tell you more about later with this. Now I'm going to tell you about these formations. There's 3 reasons for these formations. One of them was the orderly movement of aircraft to the target area. The other was a uniform pattern of destruction on the ground when the bombs hit. The other was defensive firepower against enemy fighter attacks. And after 4 months in the fall of '42, they come up with this called a combat box. 3 squadrons like this. This is one squadron. And we were supposed to fly to where we would have a 50-foot clearance in every dimension. If you happen to go forward, you'd miss the wingtip 50 feet. You'd be 50 feet above or below him. And if you went laterally, you'd be 50 feet behind his tail. So a 50-foot margin of error. Not quite as close as the Blue Angels fly. But it's pretty close. Now this is the way it looked from the ground. This is the way it looked from a fighter coming in from the rear. So that's us today. Tail end Charlie. On my first raid over to Europe, they gave me an experienced pilot as a co-pilot. He was a Greek man, had a name ended in O-U-S. And I've been practicing flying from the pilot seat. But due to my position formation, I had to fly from the co-pilot seat, so I had to change hands. I've been holding the throttle with the throttle and RPM with my right hand and the wheel with the left. I had to switch. And that was a little awkward at first. And I learned a new word that day. I had to be ambidextrous. Never heard that word before. But after 3 or 4 raids, thought nothing of it. But at first it seemed real tough having to switch position. I could switch hands. Okay, my first raid was over France. We didn't go very far from France, maybe 75 miles to a railroad marshalling yard. That was a big target we had over there. After before the day of trucks, everything moved by rail over there and war supplies. And on a target like that, where it's an elongated target, we dropped our bombs, what's called in train. If you bombed a factory, you drop all at once to hit, a uniform small area, salvo, you might say. But today we're going to, on a third raid, going to Keel, up north sea, near Bremen, across the Danish Peninsula, go over there. And Keel was a big shipbuilding center, but right now they were building subs. A lot of subs. And it wasn't until the fall of '43, just before I left there, that they finally got that submarine menace under control. We were eating powdered food and all that kind of stuff there at first, because couldn't get it. The submarine sinking so many of the ships. Okay, we were 27,000. Now sail, that's 5.5 miles high. You can hardly see it from the ground. But that's not high enough to get above the anti-aircraft shells. It takes 15 seconds for anti-aircraft 88 millimeter to get to your altitude. And they had a mechanical timer then for them to blow up if it didn't hit anything before then. But a little later, before I left that theater, they got in proximity fuses. That's a little radio transmitter in the nose of the shell that sends out a cone-shaped signal. In fact, signal gets interrupted, the shell detonates. So if it comes up near an airplane by missing, it'll blow up. See, where before it might go up to the preset altitude and then detonate. Both of them are bad, though, but that proximity fuse was rough. At the time I was away, we were losing about 80% of our losses were due to fighters. The rest anti-aircraft fire. But later, when the fighters got under control by our Mustangs, the thing reversed. The anti-aircraft fire got more deadly and the fighters were less of a problem. Okay, coming from the target area back over southern Denmark, we were just about through with the activity, and all of a sudden the plane wanted to climb up, and I felt something hit my shoulder real hard. And I looked out there and there's a big hole. Behind this number 3 engine, so I was on this side of the cockpit, and a terrific vibration. And 3 men got wounded, and I heard that conversation on the intercom about the men being wounded. But it's all I could do to keep the plane from climbing. The control cables to the trim tab on the elevator had been severed, and the plane had been modified so much it was tail heavy, so it wanted to climb. And we had other problems, we'll get to those. But it just so happened that after that attack, we had no more enemy activity, so I didn't have to fly all that good a formation. Now, I reconstructed the events of this attack from talking to the crew members. It seems that this Messerschmitt 109 came in from this angle, and it just so happened that this waist gunner had a little malfunction he was working on. The ball turret gunner was reloading. The top turret gunner was occupied over this side. No one shot at it. Well, the general procedure there, the less action that this fighter pilot thinks he's getting, the closer he'll come in and more accurate his aim will become. So he must have expended all his ammunition on that last charge, and because after he got shot up, within about 4 seconds, the top turret gunner turned around and shot him. He blew up. And we didn't know it till a month later, but any foreign material you get in your airplane from anti-aircraft shell or anything, they send to London for analysis. And we assumed all that stuff was fragments of anti-aircraft shell. But in the number 3 gas tank was a fragment from the engine of that plane. Okay, we was trying to hold the wheel forward, see? I'd get the co-pilot do it a while, and I'd do it a while. And finally, I noticed a flotation cushion, we had 2 or 3 of them down there, for life raft use, was there, so I put it between my knee and the control column, which is a 4-inch aluminum pipe. That would take most of the pressure off of our having to hold the wheel forward. But for 2 hours, we flew like that going to England. And about 10 minutes in the field, we decided we'd see if we could get the gear down, because we had a lot of damage out there. And the right wheel wouldn't go down. So there's a hand crank there. It takes 300-something cranks, so the crew's members switched up, cranked that right wheel down. So we landed, and immediately after landing, we pulled off the concrete to get on the grass so it wouldn't block our runway. We didn't know at the time, but the tail wheel didn't go down either. But that's not a problem. The main gear is the main thing, see? Anyway, they worked 5 weeks on that airplane, getting it fixed up, and didn't get everything fixed then. Okay, as a 20mm shell hit one of the blades of number 4 prop, got it bad out of balance, and there's terrific vibration. And with that big hole behind number 3 engine, I didn't want to feather number 4 just yet, because I didn't know when I might need it. So I throttled it down enough just to keep the engine warm, and turned the RPMs down as low as I could get, and flew all the way back down like that, see? Well, it was enough power where it wasn't giving us any drag there like windmilling, see? But it wasn't right. Anyway, they had to junk that engine, all that vibration. And of course, they had to junk that prop too, see? And the top turret gunner, the one that blew the fighter up, he got injured slightly and was an outpatient hospital. And one of the other men got wounded slightly, but the man in the radio room in the middle of the airplane, he had to stay a week in the hospital. His name was Jones. He was from Oil Trough, Arkansas. You ever heard of that town? I haven't. But that's where his address on, Oil Trough, Arkansas. Name was Jones. Like I said, we were 27,000. Now, this was my toughest raid reference combat action. But a month from now, we'll tell you about the toughest raid reference general activity when we went to Schweinfurt. It had a little dramatic, different flavor. Okay, now before I go to a raid to Norway, anybody want to ask me any question about this?
Yeah, I got one.
Okay.
What time of day was this? Is daylight, dark, and?
It's always daylight then.
What winter, what type of month? Cold month?
That was the last part of June in '43.
Okay, long days and hot weather.
And 3 days later, we went to Hamburg. That was the same period there where the RAF was bombing at night and the Americans bombing at daytime, and we killed about 100,000 folks in Hamburg there with all that firestorm that the RAF did. Any more?
You said they worked on that plane 4 or 5 weeks.
5 weeks, huh?
What did you fly in the meantime?
Well, they had some more planes there.
You kept your crew together?
Yeah, the crew stayed intact. Now, they had a rule in there, if you had a sinus problem, you couldn't go on a raid because of high altitude, your pressure changed. So one of my men was taken out one day when we weren't going on a raid to sub for a fellow that had a sinus cold, and that plane got shot down. So I lost one man there. And I had a lot of different co-pilots, and one of them that got to be a pilot later got shot down. But no one ever was lost when I was with them.
Boy, that's something. But they liked being with you.
Led a charmed life.
Yeah.
At the end of the war, how many planes made it all the way? How many got back at the end?
Okay, it was 25 of us went over there in May of '43. 25 new airplanes and new crews. And in December, 5 of us came back. And now let me tell you about a raid we call a milk run. Bobby, what's a milk run?
No opposition.
It's a raid that you don't expect hardly any opposition. We were going to bomb an aluminum plant in southern Norway that the Germans had been working on since they occupied Norway to get it repaired. The Norwegians had sabotaged it. And we were supposed to be up at the exact time when they're changing shifts. Not supposed to be any natives in the plant at the time. And since we didn't expect much opposition, we were going to go up at 6,000 feet instead of 27,000 to do accurate bombing. And like I say, we didn't expect much problem, see. Now, in the briefing on this raid at 6,000, they said, out on the North Sea, if you can't make it back to England, do not bail out. Ditch the airplane on the water, because those life rafts that are in the airplane, 2 of them, have radio transmitters, emergency transmitters. Well, if you bail out, you don't have that, see? So don't bail out, go down where you're playing, see? All right. My bombardier had a sinus condition. He wasn't going to be with us that day. They said, go to the briefing, we'll send you a body out there. All you got to do is hit the switch one time, you know. When the leader's bomb drops, he drops all his, see? So just before we cranked the engine, here come a Jeep out there with a brand new bombardier just arrived there the day before. He was from Brooklyn. If that tells you anything? He had not been to the briefing. He didn't know the details, see, about the low altitude. He had a lot of heavy flying clothes, a bunch of books of bumming data, which he didn't need. All I do is hit a switch, see? And we finally got him loaded up and took off, see? Going around Biltron. But about 5 minutes from the English coast out on the North Sea, somebody tapped me on the shoulder. It was him. He said, Captain, we got to go back. I said, what do you mean we got to go back? I forgot my parachute. Okay, the pilot and co-pilot, among others, didn't wear a parachute. They wore a harness with a couple of real stiff rings here. And behind your seat, you had your parachute hanging there with a couple of real stiff hooks on it, and you clamped it on. They're supposed to fit good. I never had tried one, but. So when he said, we got to go back, I don't have a parachute. I said, we're not going to miss this raid. Take my chute. He said, I knew what you doing. It was regulations that on any military flight, all military personnel would have parachutes. So if I hadn't have gone back to England and he complained, he'd give me a little static, see? So take my chute. Okay, we went up there and we made a couple of loops out there in the ocean to arrive at the factory at the right time to drop the bombs. We saw one fighter plane, but he didn't shoot at us. Had a little anti-aircraft fire, but it wasn't very effective. But one plane lost the engine, so he was afraid he couldn't make it back to England. So he went about 100 miles over to Stockholm, Sweden, and landed. They were neutral and was interred in a hotel for a long time. I think about a year before the war was over, when they knew Hitler was lost, those neutral countries like Switzerland, Sweden began to cooperate with them, and they let us have those men back. But in 1943, you had to stay in a hotel the rest of the war, see? On per diem. And then when I was up in Denmark in '86, I took a boat over to Sweden just to check it out. All the Scandinavian countries about the same. Okay, we got back at Milk Run with no problems. And I'll give you a little preview of the tentative program for this series. It's mostly about travel. We'll have one more program on World War II. We're going to talk about swine, but then we're going to get into that flying around the world solo in that single-engine airplane. But today, and next time, we're on World War II. Now, on that first raid to the continent there, where it was started with Milk Run, but not quite as good as that in Norway. My first view of the surface from 27,000 looked like a quilt down there, little bitty farms. Now I found out later that the average size of those farms was 7 acres. And practically all of them had hedgerows around them. And those hedgerows is what gave them trouble at Normandy when they was trying to break out of the beachhead there and get to the Germans. Every quarter mile was a hedgerow, see? And there's a German hiding there with one of the big tanks. So we had that pattern of the hedgerows there. Now, since then, I think that with our help, they've consolidated a lot of those farms and using bigger farm equipment, getting more efficiency in farming. But it was real ancient then. For one thing, during that Marshall Plan, we discovered they had 28 different sizes of beds over there. France had 170 varieties of cheese. So it's a different world over there. Any questions so far?
got one.
All right?
What time did you ordinarily get up, have your briefing, take off, and until you got returned from, I don't know
Okay.
how far you went, but what's the typical?
Okay, the reason I hadn't mentioned anything about that, we're gonna take care of briefings on that rifle range because it had a real distinctive briefing. But we'd get a telex, usually about dark, telling what kind of bombs to load on the plane. And a couple hours later, we get the rest of the data on the raid, which was a target and the route and all that stuff. And that happened early in the evening. So we'd go to bed knowing that around 3 o'clock, some fat sergeant would go wake us up. And you have to go to breakfast, see? Have the briefing with daylight and be out your plane at about daylight. Did that take care of that?
And then how long would you be gone? Gone 6 hours, 4 hours, according to where you had to go?
Usually we usually be gone about 6 hours. Because it took us a long time to get into
Right.
formations. Yeah. Due to that submarine menace, we didn't have any heated flying suits there when I started. But we finally got a few in, and we give those to the folks back here to waist gun position. They had the coldest positions, fresh air coming in on them. So finally, we had heated gloves, heated flying suits for every member of the crew. We already had positioned our airplane to plug them in, see. Okay, the first day I had this heated flying suit, we was climbing up and getting in bigger and bigger formations. Before I get to that, let me tell you this. At the briefing, they'd have a big chart up there showing all the planes, and the pilot's name would be written on the wing. So you'd know where you were in the formation. So when we took off, the pilot would proceed to get in his position. Well, after all 18 planes and 3 squadrons got into position, the group leader had orders to be at a certain point in England, at a certain time, at a certain altitude, at a certain heading, where he'd meet with 2 others like that and form a combat wing, see? Now that took a lot of rendezvousing. So we was flying around, climbing up higher, and when the get above 10,000, it began to get pretty cold. So when the sun, as we were circling there, and the sun was shining in the cockpit, we'd be warm. If we got around where it was in the shade there for a couple of minutes, we'd get cold. So I would adjust the rheostat on my heated flying suit up a little bit more, see? Well, the next cold circle, I'd adjust it some more. Finally, I realized I wasn't getting any heat, and I looked down, wasn't even plugged in. But I was getting results because the sun was shining on it. Give me some more questions.
Where'd you pick up
Did
the
you
plane?
have any radio contact with your home base during the raids?
The group and squadron leaders were the only ones allowed to talk on the radio. Otherwise, all the planes just stayed on intercom. And on intercom, different crew members would notify everybody if they saw a fighter in our area, especially if it looked like it heading towards our airplane. Like a bandit at 1 o'clock high. This fella shot us up was at 4:30, pretty well level, I think. See, at level, neither one of the turrets can reach him, see, because they can't shoot below level or under level. But the waist gunners could, so yeah, the radio man could.
I got another question.
All right.
You were 21, and I suppose a lieutenant, or what was your
I
rank?
was 21 then.
Okay. And what was the rank of your group leader, the top man leading that formation? What was his age and rank?
He was a bird colonel. And he had a deputy who was a lieutenant colonel. And 1 or 2 other shots up in the office. And each squadron leader had a major.
These are people flying now, you mean, or are they down at the squadron?
He fired too,
Okay.
but not every raid necessarily. And he had an assistant squadron leader, I don't know, deputy squadron leader, that didn't fly much either. But these squadrons were made up theoretically of 9 ships and 9 crews, of which you try to get 6 in the air for a particular raid. That'd give you time to train a new crew and to have one gone having been shut down, trying to have 6 ready, see? So, and out of those 9 crews, you allowed 2 captains. Well, on about the 21st raid, I was the oldest man over there, most experienced, so I became squadron leader and a captain, whether I wanted it or not.
You were 22 or 23 years old?
I was 22 then.
Boy, that's something.
Now, on this Schweinfurt raid we're going to talk about, that occurred on my 22nd birthday, August 17th, 43. But on this raid, today I'm 21. 21 years old and never been kissed.
I don't believe
You don't believe that?
But the government trusted you with a plane and a crew, didn't it?
Yeah.
I say the government, the
Yeah.
United States.
I went over there in a brand new plane, which they took away from it. Because it was the F model, had more gas tanks in the wing than the E model, which was being used. And I got sent as a replacement to Polebrook, 80 miles north of London. And all the new planes, that was in the Midlands. All the new planes were being sent to southeast London to a bunch of places that they're going to do those shuttle raids later. They'd go to North Africa. And we'll get into that next time, because the first shuttle raid happened on that day the Schweinfurt raid happened. That's how I lost my plane. They gave me that new airplane and 2 sunglasses, a 45 automatic, and a Tommy gun. Supposed to guard the bomb site. I got to England, I lost my Tommy gun and my airplane.
Well, Charles, what did the navigator on one of those planes do? Did he tell you which way to go and so forth?
He had a 50 caliber machine gun on each side. Only the group navigator had to do the navigating, the leader, see? The rest of them flew formation.
Oh, okay.
The same way in bombing, you didn't have to look at the bomb site. Out of 18 planes, didn't have but 4 bomb sites. The leader, the deputy leader, and the 2 squadron leaders. The rest of them didn't need them. Now, why carry those things over to be lost? See? Incidentally, we did lose some planes. Early on in the war, there's 1 or 2 or more planes landed in France, thinking they were southern England, and the Germans got the planes intact. Yeah. And one day, one of our pilots, who had been on very many raids, first let me tell you, the turbo superchargers at that time over there were oil regulated. In high altitude, the oil gets pretty thick because it's cold up there. Later, the F model has been on, they were electronically regulated, and the cold oil wasn't a factor. But you could push the lever on the turbocharged control up there at high altitude, and 2 to 6 seconds later you may get the manifold pressure. And if you didn't watch it, you may get more manifold pressure than you wanted, see? Okay. This pilot lost 2 engines due to poor pilot technique and made a forced landing in a parish in southern England. The news media got a hold of it, and they decided to give him the DFC, the Distinguished Flying Cross.
For saving the plane. Armenia.
Goof up, see?
Yeah.
The media got hold of it, because he brought that plane back.
What was the name of your plane, and did you ever meet the guys from the Memphis Belle?
Some previous crew had named this plane the Daddy J. I don't know whether that's his wife or his mother or what. I didn't try to name because I already had a name on it. Incidentally, when I went over there, I was dating a girl in Wichita, Kansas. And her parents had come to America at an early age from the London area, and they gave me some names and phone numbers to visit their friends in London. So my first weekend pass to London, I called them up, and that was a real project. The old phone booths were 50 years old. You'd put a certain size coin in one slot, and they could hear you, but you couldn't hear them till you put another coin in another slot. And the British banking system is archaic, even though they started it. I started a bank account when I was over in England, and I found out later I couldn't cash a check unless at one of their branches. But get back to these folks I visited in London. His name was Hawton, Hawton. I got a cab, went to their residence. They was in an area where every house was red brick and they all look alike, built by capital for labor. Okay, they sat me down in a chair without an armrest, brought me a cup of hot tea, which I don't drink, and some crumpets. That's a little cookie with a piece of jelly in the middle of it. So I had tea and crumpets, no place to put them. They was talking to me a blue streak, and I was really in a bind there.
What you want to do for
Did you
her?
go back?
I went back to England.
No, I mean to see them.
No. I already told them all I could about the relatives. What was I going to say? Anyway, I went back to England 40 years later. I'd heard James Earl say that they were going to Swansea to visit Jimbo. So happened it was 40 years after the raids, from 43 to 83. So we spent 2 days in London, and we got a tour guide deal and a car, and we went up to my old air base and went to a couple of museums. At this old air base, which was a former RAF base, the only thing left of that air base was the last 150 feet of one runway that was near a public road. The rest had been plowed up and everything back in pasture. But there, I don't have images up in my room. On the end of that runway had a triangle-shaped monument there with a bunch of data in it about the activities of that group over there for 2 years in World War II. And in getting in these formations, each group had a symbol here, either a square or a circle or a triangle. Our group was a triangle and our letter was J. So they see a triangle J, they know who we were and where we were supposed to be in the overall formation, see, triangle J. Others had A and some of them had a square with an H in it. On this trip up to this little town, the name of the base was Polebrook. There's a little town near there by that name, but we was 15 miles from a city of 50,000 named Peterborough. Okay, 40 years after the war, in 83 when we went to Polebrook, nothing had changed. The same building, same road, the same thatched roofs, time had stood still. Now this city of 50,000, it had grown a bunch. But it was just unreal. It was sort of like Old Carolyn did for 40 years. Old Carolyn, same way, it stood still for 40 years. This place was further out in the country. And there's another little town there spelled O-U-N-D-L-E that was a little bit bigger than Polebrook. It had 2 pubs, I think. On that trip up to Peterborough from London in this tour vehicle, we stopped at a pub for a break, and they had a gorgeous looking chocolate eclair on display there. My wife Sue had to have it. It cost a pound, or $1.75, I think. Anyway, she bought this chocolate eclair and bit down on it. Wasn't a bit of sugar in it. She was furious. So the next time they serve eclairs out here, you think about that. I'm gonna let y'all out early today, but next time maybe you'll have more questions. Because
Do you have any contact with the fellows that you were with over there? Do you have any contact today?
I went out to Portland, Oregon in 92 and in 94 to visit my navigator. I happened to find out where he was. And that was interesting. He was about 7 years older than me, and he had flown a little before the war in Cubs, and he had tried to become a Navy pilot, but he got eliminated, didn't make it. And he could appreciate a pilot's property because he could fly a little bit. And on this Schweinfurt raid, I'll tell you one thing that involved him. Coming out of the target area from Schweinfurt, I was on the outside of a group there, and to keep from getting further outside, I used a lot of controls and stayed right in there. All right, while that wing was up, and as it was going up, you use a lot of rudder, you can do that. One of the crew members called for action. I don't know which one. On the intercom, the action meant he thought our plane was the one being attacked by incoming fire. Okay, the 20mm shells, these fighters had 2 20mm guns and 4 30 calibers. They were fused to explode at 1,000 meters, which is 1,200 yards, so they wouldn't go down and shoot up the homeland. And when they would explode, it'd be little gray puffs of smoke. So you see those little puffs of smoke sometimes when they make a head-on attack, they start firing out there, correct their aim, see? So just as they got that wing up, here come those little 20mm right on that wing. And that navigator believes in this day that I raised that wing up on purpose. But I did a violent maneuver to stay in there, see? And those airplanes would respond if you would use the controls. And I had already learned that out in my basic training out on the Snake River, no? I'll tell you one other thing here. Our commander there at Walla Walla, Washington, where I was the first 2 months over to England, was in the South Pacific B-17s in the Philippines there when Pearl Harbor was attacked. They was wheelless. He's about 5'9" and maybe 12 years older than I was. But he was in the full colonel there at Walla Walla in charge. On my next to last raid in England, just before we cranked engines, here come a jeep out there with our colonel and a general, and it was this fellow wheelless. He had come over there to be in charge of a wing, and he wanted to go on a familiarization ride over the continent, bombing range, see? So he said, I'm going to be your co-pilot. You forget about my rank. You just tell me to do anything you want to. I'm familiar with B-17, I'll do it. I'm leading the high squadron. That's up here about 150 yards from the leader down here, see? Maybe 200 yards. When that raid's over that day, I said, General, what do you think about it? He said, Captain, I think you flew it too close. I said, General, over here we learned to fly closer than we did in Walla Walla. Walla Walla wasn't no shooting at us. But it's appalling to me over there in combat how many groups flew a sloppy formation. And invariably the German fighters would jump on the sloppy formations. I think they assumed they were all inexperienced and the gunners were inexperienced too, see? So we flew a snug formation. A box like it's supposed to be. Any more questions?
Sounds good. I'd like to get around the applause for it.
Glad y'all came now. Next month is Schweinfurt. It's going to be more detailed that's because we're going to tell you about briefing and being on the ground 4.5 hours in the ground fog and all that. It's going to be a lot to that Schweinfurt raid. Plus, I went over there 4 years later and interviewed some of the survivors.